Bonjour, bonjour. I just came down here to make this video and I went around at the corner and this is what I saw. I mean, it's all you need. It really is all you need right here. Look at how gorgeous that sky is to the right. It's a little pink. It's that massive smokestack, but look at it is so cold. It is 27 degrees. I put my little things I have in my shoes to keep my feet warm. I stuck them in my gloves today too, because I have really horrible circulation. But let's go inside. But I just had to stop for a second, pull out my phone, and get this so you could all see how beautiful this morning is. So here we have the first chapel on the south side of the nave, just after the transept. You see the transept right here. Can't wait to share those with you guys. But the stained glass windows on this side were done by a different artist than the ones on the north side that we talked about a couple weeks ago, except for one. But the very first chapel is dedicated to Saint Joseph, and it is the spirit of the fear of God. So we're talking, this is the New Testament on this side, and it's after Pentecost. So that is what these chapels are dedicated to. Again, completely changed from the original lineup pre-fire, which had also been different names before. But we have another confessional here on the end of the first chapel on this side, coming from the transept. I'm going to tell you more about Saint Joseph because he's a really, really long story, and it's actually really interesting. And so I want to tell you guys that outside without, because there's just a lot of people. It's just open. They're finishing mass right now. And since I'm off to the side, it's kind of quiet at the moment, I thought I'd start it pretty quickly. But the stained glass windows, except for this one, were done by Alfred Géronti, and he was 1821 to 1868. See the window here a little bit. The sun is just coming up too, so this is a perfect time to be in here. But he was actually trained as a sculptor underneath Geoffroy Deschamps, who's the one who did a lot of the work on Notre Dame under Viollet-le-Duc. His brother actually was a stained glass artist, and then he died, so he decided to take over his atelier, and then also the commissions that he'd already had with Viollet-le-Duc. So he also did the Saint Genevieve windows that are in the treasury that I'll share with you guys another day. Waiting till the crowds die down. It's surprisingly still very busy, even though it's the first weekend of the new year. Usually the vacationers start to leave, so maybe tomorrow it slows down a little. But there is a sculpture in here as well of Saint Joseph. I could try to show you in the window, but it's this beautiful, I love the glass here on the window too. You could peek through the keyhole. The altar in there is also by Viollet-le-Duc, but you could kind of see the statue a little bit through the window. They were the first couple weeks using the confessionals actually to store like audio equipment and everything. They were coming in and out of these confessionals, but it looks like now they are back. But I haven't been in here really. I only come first thing in the morning, so I haven't been in here in the meat of the day to see if they are doing more of the confessionals, which I'm sure they are, because it is still a working church. We want to remember. And so the next chapter, so the chapels here are also named after figures that have a prominent place in Paris and Notre Dame itself. So this chapel is the Saint Thomas d'Aquin. He was named a doctor of the church. Let's get easy. He was named a doctor of the church. He lived from 1225 to 1274. And there he is right there. You can see him here in this painting. But what I really love in this chapel is the windows. It's the tree of Jesse, which you'll find in a lot of churches, especially Saint Chapelle. The tree of Jesse starts from the bottom, it goes up, which is usually how you want to always read. Stained glass windows is from the bottom to the top, and the tree of Jesse is basically the family tree of Christ. And at the very, very top, you have Our Lady, Mary, and when I do, I'm going to do a video of real detail of all the stained glass, so we'll go through that one again another time. But this stained glass was done by the same gentleman that did the ones across the way. But I do love this painting. It is Saint Thomas, and he's sitting at the fountain. So you see him up there on the chair. He's wearing a special necklace with a sun on it, and then from the fountain below is coming water, and all the different representatives of all sorts of different religions are out with bowls, and they're basically collecting the water, which is supposed to be the thirst of knowledge to know God. But also in the back, if you kind of look over the shoulders, the gentleman with the ermine, it's very young Louis XIV there. This is not one of the Lemai's paintings, but you do, again, all these altars in all of the chapels were done by Viollet-le-Duc. And the grills, everything. I still have not found out an answer about those little fountains in the back. And then we, of course, have one of the many Lemai's. All right, they were just finishing Mass, so I didn't want to interrupt, but I just love, and I love that the sun is coming up right now. It is and it's beautiful, so beautiful this morning, even though it's stinking cold. But this is one of the Lemai's, and this is the May of 1634. It is the Descent of the Holy Spirit. It was done by Jacques Blanchard, and you can see the riches coming down. But it is the oldest that is still in Notre Dame of the series. It's the 5th in the series of the 76 Lemai's. But again, the oldest one here. It represents the Pentecost. Blanchard was a personal painter to Louis XIII and was known as the French Titian. It's a really fantastic, really beautiful painting. And again, the restoration work on all of these was just amazing. And I will put, again, the link to the video I did from the Gobelins when you got to see a little bit better version of the paintings, because they were displayed right in front of you and much lower. It's a little hard to really get all the fantastic details of these when they're up so high. Mass is over now. Look at this. Just gorgeous. So the next chapel is another one I love, Saint Clotilde. And it is, there's nobody in here, so I'm going to jump in here really quick, even though it says no photos, but nobody's in here praying. So I'm just going to show you really quick, and then I'll pop back out and tell you a little bit more. But really look at this woodwork. Says no photos, but there wasn't anybody praying, and it's first thing in the morning. So if people were in there praying, I definitely would not have done that. But this, the back of this is pretty amazing, and it was moved here by Viollet-le-Duc, and it is the Apostles and Saints. We don't have all the pieces here. Some of the pieces are back, they say, in storage, but it is so fantastic. I absolutely love it. The details on it. I took a bunch of pictures of it too. But it was once in the chapter house of the canons outside the cathedral that's now destroyed. It was sculpted in the 16th century and moved here by Viollet-le-Duc in the mid 19th century. and it really is gorgeous. Again, here's another beautiful stained glass window. These are the stained glass windows that are going to be coming out of the church on this side. I'm hoping the Tree of Jesse is not, and that will stay because it's such a distinct window, but we don't know. But Saint Clotilde, you can see here her name on the chapel. Saint Clotilde, she was the daughter of the Burgundian king Charles II, or Chiperic II, who would send her around France at 11 years old as an ambassador. Clovis, who was the king of the Franks, heard about her and asked for her hand in marriage, but she was a very devout Catholic. She tried endlessly to convert Clovis to become a devout, but finally, until he had the Battle of the Tobiac, he said he was praying to the God of Clotilde that he promised that if they were victorious, he would convert and become a Catholic. And so he was baptized on Christmas Day in Notre Dame de Reims, among 500 soldiers. And if you go into the church, which is a beautiful church that I desperately want everybody to go to, there is a tile in the floor that says that was where he was baptized. They were very close to a lady we'll talk about in a minute, Saint Genevieve, and they had the abbey and church where they were buried up at the top of the hill. She became the patron saint of Paris, Genevieve did, and we could owe all of that to Clotilde, as how we even know the stories of Saint Genevieve. So another one that I love. And also, funny thing, every time it used to be that in spell check, when I put my name in spell check, I always wanted to change it to Clotilde, which is funny because that's not that common of a name either. You have, again, one of the lames here. And this, I love this one with the columns, the twisting columns, which is kind of reminiscent of an old altar they used to have here in Notre Dame. It's the preaching of Saint Piia in Jerusalem. It's done by Charles Poussin in 1642. He did also one in 1653. But the twisting columns, it's really amazing because it shows the movement, and then you show the gentleman with his back, his body kind of mimicking those twisting chapels. But it's like the old altar that was done under Louis XIV. It used to be here in the church. It's no longer here. Just look, it's so beautiful. And the light. Look at up here. Oh, so gorgeous. I just love to stand in the corners and look up and look back, and just catch all the layers. Like right here, you could catch the columns, the capitals, the chandeliers, part of the organ, the Stations of the Cross. Everything is so gorgeous. So the next chapel we have is Saint Vincent de Paul. Saint Vincent de Paul, I think, is a name a lot of people know because of the charity that's in the United States. But Saint Vincent was the founder of the Priests of the Missions of the Daughters of Charity. He lived from 1581 to 1660. This is the chapel that is of the spirit of service, specifically. And you have so I was just told I can't use the gimbal, so I'm gonna hold my camera as carefully as I can. And so we're still at Saint Vincent de Paul, and on the right side here you have one of the lames. This is the lame of 1635. It's Saint Peter healing the sick with his shadow by Laurent Delaire. It's the second of the two that he did. He did another one in 1637 as well. It has the coat of arms of the two donors that purchased and paid for this. which they always love to do that. You also have the statue in the center here of Saint Vincent de Paul with the people at the bottom of it looking up to him. He was a pretty amazing gentleman. And then on this side, I love this painting, and I love the shape of it. It is a special scallop shaped painting, and it is of the Saint Charles Borromeo, and this was done by Carl van Loo, and you can see the saint as the cardinal giving the sick woman communion. It's a really beautiful painting. The special shape of the painting, of course, needed a very special frame. But this one they had to recreate the whole frame in the restoration, so they created a whole new frame in 2023. Another altar, of course. A lot of the chapels on the south side here are closed. I don't know why they have the south side closed when the north side is open. Okay, so the next chapel is one of my favorite ladies this is her special weekend. Not as many people in front of it. So Saint Genevieve, this is her feast weekend. Her feast day was yesterday, January 3rd. And she is the patron saint of Paris. She died on January 3rd, either around 500 or 512 or even 520. I've seen all sorts of different things. But she is the patron saint of Paris because she saved Paris many times when she was alive from Attila the Hun, and also from when people were starving to death. She was able to go up the Seine to come back with bread and wheat to save people. You see here in the statue right here, she's holding loaves of bread. This was done by Victor Geoffroy de Champs, 1865, so under Viollet-le-Duc. And they have some little offerings there. And her relics are in Saint-Étienne-du-Mont, also Saint-Sulpice, and they're going to do every day this week until next weekend. They are doing Mass and her bringing her relics out, and there's going to be a special thing next weekend that I'm really hoping to do. There should be a painting on this wall, but it's still under restoration. It's the Virgin and Child with the Saint John the Baptist in Saint Genevieve. There's a photo here that kind of shows that this is not here. Get you a better view of the window. And the lame here is the Centurion Cornelius at St. Peter's Feet by Aubin Vouet, painted in 1639. The lighting on this side, for some reason, also seems better. The paintings don't have as many big glare marks on it as they do on the north chapels, which is kind of strange. Aubin is the youngest brother of Simon, one of the most prolific painters under Louis XIII and the XIV. He painted 3 Lames, more than any other artist did. So 1632, 39, and 1640, so 2 in a row. That was a pretty big honor for him. Cornelius' vision of the Virgin told him to go to Jaffa to find Pierre. The scene captures the moment. Pierre tells him to rise, as he is also just a man. You know, that's a good thing for us all to remember. He had made, when they did the research and all of the x-rays of these paintings, they saw that the artist had a hard time with the feet, and there was many sketches of the feet underneath it, which is not the easy thing to do. It's very hard to paint hands and feet. Oops. Trying to hold this as steady as possible. All right, let's go see the next one. Oops, another favorite. Last chapel on the south side is dedicated to one of my other favorites, Saint Denis, who's also another patron saint of Paris. Saint Denis died around the year 250. He was the first bishop of Paris. He is here. You might know his story because he's the one that had his head chopped off, and he carried it to where the Basilique Saint-Denis is now, and the city of Saint-Denis, and that's where he stopped and finally died. This is a very rare sculpture of him with his head actually on there. It is again by Geoffrey Duchamp. You also have the Lemay painting here, this Crucifixion of Saint Pierre by Sebastian Bourdon, painted in 1643. It's very interesting because it's at this diagonal. So it's very different from that time and very against the academic rules that they had at the time. And then you see the angels coming down to give him his laurel wreath and to show him that he is about ready to ascend. But he's quite calm. But Saint Denis, this chapel is a spirit of mission, which I guess he really was on a mission when he decided to walk away with his head. The smaller painting in here is the martyrdom of Saint Bartholomew, done by Lubin Bauguin around 1650. Another one, it's really interesting that they put the two paintings that have a very diagonal feature to them in the same chapel with each other. It used to be in the Louvre until 1947, and then it was given here. But you could also see Saint Denis there with his bishop's mitre. Beautiful windows. All right, now to the last one, which is just somebody you probably don't know. The gift shop is just behind me, and they are getting ready to open. And the people are clamoring to buy something. So this last chapel here is dedicated to Saint Paul Chen. He is a Chinese martyr, and he was transferred here in 1920 to Notre Dame. He used to be buried in the Chapel of the Holy Childhood on the north side, where he is still buried. But they moved the chapel, which I think is kind of rude. I mean, if he's buried in the other one, they should have kept this there with him, with everything. He lived from 1838 to 1861. He represents the spirit of unity. As you see, they're just waiting. They have items in their hand ready to go. But he was a Chinese gentleman that he became a part of the church against his family's wishes. He joined the church and into the seminary, and then his father at one point said he needed to leave the church and come back and help the family financially. He, in 1861, was caught up in the persecution of Catholics. He was arrested, and in prison he was beheaded and killed. He was beatified in 1908 by Pope Pius X. In 1920, as I said, his remains were moved here symbolically to Notre Dame de Paris, where he's buried in the North Chapels. And then he was canonized in the year 2000 by Pope John Paul II. You have this beautiful crucifix and candles on the wall here that go back to 1964 by Philippe Capellan, who was the sculptor. They were given on the 800th anniversary of the cathedral. And it's also supposed to be a little bit of a reminder of the link of the Goldsmith Guild to Notre Dame because of all of the amazing paintings we have here. There's some paintings here also. That is Paul Chen, beautiful painting there. And then a Virgin and Child. But this sculpture there is the work of the Sainted Childhood, which is the organization that he was a part of. But I have to say, I did not know a lot about him until I started looking it up. But it's really hard to find too much about him. I couldn't find a lot even in Chinese. So I'll give you a little walk over here, and then we'll go outside. Or I could get my gimbal back out. Hopefully this is not too shaky. I'm trying to keep it as still as possible. I haven't seen the lady that told me I couldn't use the gimbal. All depends on who you get. But look, you can see the light up there coming through the windows. So gorgeous. Chapels. The line, when I got here this morning, I got here about 8:20. Got in line and it was really, really long. I just jumped into the line and it was moving pretty quick once I got in. But it's really going to depend. I'm going to see how it is next week. I'll be here a few times next week to see what it's like after the winter break, because winter break in Europe ends this weekend. So hopefully it kind of goes back to normal. But I'm going to tell you about this painting, and then we're going to pop outside and I'm going to bundle up. The very last piece of art you'll see before you leave the cathedral, or right by the Sainte, which is the exit, is this painting of Magnificat in 1760, and it was done by Jean Jouvenet. And there was a series of these that at one point were in the church, and this is the only one that still is here. And it's the Mary, who is pregnant. At the time, she goes to visit her sister Elizabeth, who is pregnant with John the Baptist. And you see the two of them there in the center. And over on the side, which there's a pretty big glare, but over on the top, kind of the left, right where the glare part is the canon. Let me see. Find a way to see him. There you go. You can see that is the canon de la Porte, and he is one that served almost longer than just about any other religious figure here in Paris, and he is the one that they found underneath the transept when they did the construction. He's also the one that had the Jouvet screen removed. He did a lot of stuff to Notre Dame, but he is painted in there, which is something they used to do a few centuries before. They paint in the donor into the painting, but he was at it, and then the painter added himself as a much younger man there. He would die the next year, but this is a really beautiful piece. You kind of see the details. And again, all of these paintings have been restored. Not all of them were on display at the Gobelin back in the spring, but a good majority of them were. There's still a few things that aren't here that we're still waiting to return. But I'm going to go outside, show you a little bit from the outside, and also share a little bit more of the story of Saint Joseph outside. And actually the line is shorter than it was when I came this morning. This shorter line you see with the gal in pink, that's for the tickets. People that have tickets, which, you know, are few and far between to actually reserve. They only put about 5% of the tickets or spots online, and they really are almost impossible. But the line is going really quickly as people are coming in. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Saint Joseph. And Saint Joseph is, as we know, he's considered the father of Christ, as in the symbolic. He was married to Mary. He was the husband of Mary. He's the patron saint of fathers, workers, and his attributes are the squire, the gourd, and a lily. Look at how beautiful the sky is. But on November 3rd, 1637, a friar, Denis, decided, not Saint Denis, but he had a vision, and he was at the Sainte Marguerite de Notre Dame de Victoire, and he had this vision 4 times in a row, and it was the Virgin Mary coming to him. I'll just walk around over here, show you a few things. What's on this? Let's go see what's on this side. It looks like it has some of the windows, and I'm not sure what this is over here. And he had this vision 4 days in a row. And with this vision, Our Lady came to him and said that God wanted to give France a son, and that he needed to get this information to Sainte Anne. And so he had to get this information to Sainte Anne, and he had to tell her that she had to make pilgrimage to 3 different churches: Notre Dame de Paris, Notre Dame de Grâce, and Notre Dame des Victoires du Paris. And if she did that and she went there and she prayed, that God would give France a son. And guess what? 10 months later, Louis XIV was born. So he was born 10 months later on September 5th, 1638. On February 21st, 1660, Louis XIV and his mother returned to Notre Dame de Grâce, which is down in the Provence region. And basically they went there for a pilgrimage to thank him for his birth. On June 7th, 1660, in the village of Cotignac in Navarre, Shepherd Gaspard Ricard came across an old man who was telling him that under a large stone was a spring, a water spring, and that he should move it. But the shepherd thought, there's no water out here. Everybody knows there's no water out here. But he listened to the man, and he did actually move this rock and found a water source. And when they thought that there had been no water there for miles. So it was, he realized it was Joseph. He had this vision of Joseph. The church, Notre Dame de Grâce, became a pilgrimage for people. The church itself dates back to 1519. It's still there today. And it has many followers, including the king, of course. But on that same exact day that this vision happened, on June 7th, 1660, is the day that Marie Therese entered France for the royal wedding to Louis XIV in Saint-Jean-de-Luz. So it's a pretty important day. The amount of times I've come across the year 1660, just between the research on this and also a massive project that I am doing that I'll release pretty soon about the Louvre, the year 1660 is just constantly coming up. So it's a pretty major year in the history of France that you can see all of these fantastic details. But on March 9th in 1661, Cardinal Mazarin died and Louis XIV entered basically his full power because he decided not to replace that position in the government, and he just took over everything. So on March 12, 1661, he decided to solemnly swear the feast day of Saint Joseph as March 19th, which had been mentioned going back to the year 800. On March 19th, it's just a week later, it was quickly thrown together that they held a mass and a rite in the chapel of the Louvre, which is where the Pavillon de Sully is now. These nice little pictures they put here. But it was done in front of Anne of Austria, another lady that I spent way too much time with these days, and Louis XIV and the Bishop Bousset, who is one of the bishops on the fountain in front of Saint-Sulpice, honoring Saint Joseph. 8 months later, on November 1st, 1661, Louis XIV became a father. So you have Mary, who came to this priest, said, you need to tell Anne of Austria that she is going to have a son. She's become a mother. And then Louis XIV decides to make the feast day of Saint Joseph, the patron saint of fathers, and he then became a father. So take that for what it is. The feast day of Saint Joseph was honored every March 19th until the Revolution, and it has never been honored since then, sadly. Charlemagne. It's a beautiful day. It is so cold. Those little things that I put in my shoe that I also shoved in my gloves today, it is like they are these little like super hot pockets. They are just absolutely lovely. I'm gonna put the other one back on here real quick. The chapels that I was showing you inside, those are the chapels I mentioned 2 weeks ago when we did the north side, that they are the chapels that they want to remove the windows, and the artist has been chosen for that, and we have seen some drawings, and I will put those on my website this next week because we're going to be talking about this on the podcast as well. So I'll give you even more details on the podcast about these chapels, so make sure to tune into that. And that is going, it's quite controversial. People are pretty upset about it because there's a specific act that was put in place that said anything from a historic building, it cannot be removed unless it's broken or something happened, is damaged. And these windows are damaged and they are in perfect shape. So a lot of people are upset that they are wanting to take those out, but it's probably going to be something we won't see for a couple years, and then the windows that are here will eventually move into the Hotel Dieu right across from us. It's going to become the museum. There it is right there. The line that was today, it was very funny because the line started over by the cafe and went around, and it actually went up the steps to the top, around, and came back down. I just cut it right in line. I'm very Parisian now, very European. You just cut right in the line. So I was going into Mass first, so I just, everybody was doing it. But it was kind of funny. I thought it was very interesting that they decided to make the line go up and over the steps, which if there's people that aren't, it's hard for them to do steps. And there's no railing on those stairs either. And it's so cold out this morning. I'd be worried about some people going up and down them. But that is your little peek inside. Thanks for hanging with me while I had to do a quick little changeover there. And hopefully it will quiet down. I think I'm going to just try to steer clear of the weekends here and just come during the week, because it seems to be a little bit quieter, because you could come in at 7:45. And so we will... there's still so much more I'm going to share with you guys. There's the whole chapels in the back, which have even more decoration and detail and sculptures and tombs and everything in there, as well as doing a whole thing about the stained glass windows and talking more about the stained glass windows that were removed from the church so long ago. But I hope you guys all have enjoyed your weekend, and bonne année. We say that here all month to people in January. If you haven't seen them even in 2 weeks, you would also tell them that. I know that in the U.S. people, according to Larry David, said you can't say it after the 3rd of January, but we say it here all month long. So bonne année. Have a wonderful New Year's. Thank you so much for watching with me, and I hope to see you again this next weekend.